Namaskar from Deshsanchar Diplomatic Eye. I am Mitra Bandhu Poudel. Welcome to the new episode. This is episode number 8. If you are watching, all the episodes of Diplomatic Eye have been archived in the official English page of Deshsanchar as well as in YouTube channel. This program has been designed to provide analytical perspective on the topical issue related to international relations, foreign affairs and diplomacy. Today I am exploring some prospects and the challenges of the recently completed 18th G20 summit that took place in New Delhi, India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss on the new episode entitled Golden Plate, Silver Utensils and the 18th G20 Summit, Prospects and Challenges. An elegant gala dinner served on gold-plated plates with silver utensils just wrap up the 2023 G20 summit in New Delhi, India. It took place in the Bharat Mandapam International Exhibition Convention Center in Pragati Maidan. The fact that India has hosted the G20 summit for the first time in addition to South Asia was a cause for celebration. As a forum for the finance ministers and central bank governors to debate international economic and financial concerns, the G20 was established in 1999 following the Asian financial crisis. The official page of G20 asserts that in the midst of the world financial and economic crisis of 2007, the G20 was elevated to the status of head of states or government, and in 2009 it was named the premier forum for international economic cooperation. Annually, the G20 summit is conducted with a rotating presidency in charge. The G20's agenda has now been expanded to cover topics including trade, sustainable development, health, agriculture, energy, environment, climate change and anti-corruption. The G20 initially concentrated mostly on broad macroeconomic issues. Including the European Union and 19 other nations, the G20 is an intergovernmental organization by focusing on concerns like international financial stability, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting sustainable development. It attempts to address important global economic issues. With the admission of African Union, G20 now has become G21 or G20 plus 1. Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, South Korea, Mexico, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkey, United Kingdom, United States and the European Union make up the group's present membership. Over 85% of the world's GDP, over 75% of its trade and roughly 2/3 of its people are represented by the G20 countries, excluding the African Union. It is an important fact that 60% of the world's renewable energy resources and more than 30% of the minerals essential to renewable and low carbon technologies are found on the African continent. An impressive acknowledgement of a continent with a population of 1 billion people is the African Union's admission to the G20. Let me briefly explain two important terms associated with G20. First, what is G20 Troika? After conferring with other participants and in response to changes in the global economy, the G20 presidency is in charge of putting together the G20 agenda. In order to maintain continuity, the presidency is backed by the Troika, which is made up of the current, recently past and next host countries. During India's G20 presidency, the G20 Troika is made up of Brazil, Indonesia and India. Now let me explain the term Sherpa in G20. The term Sherpa comes from the Nepali Sherpa people, who are well known for their work as guides to for mountaineers crossing the difficult terrain of the Himalayas. The G20 Sherpa is a high-ranking person appointed by a G20 member country to represent their leader, often the head of state or government, in the lead up the annual G20 Leaders Summit. Amitabh Kant, a former CEO of Niti Aayog, was appointed as India's G20 2023 Sherpa, who was appointed in July, far ahead of India's G20 presidency. Golden plates, silver utensils. The fact that the head of state and other world leaders were served on silver and gold plated utensils was a good way to highlight India's rich cultural history. Around 15,000 pieces of silverware with finely etched design have been made by over 200 artists in roughly 50,000 man hours, according to Iris Jaipur, a metalware company in Jaipur that supplied the hotels in bulk, according to the Hindustan Times. Now let us discuss about the prospects of the G20. First is the G20 structure. There are 4 groups that make up the G20 structure: Sherpa track, finance track, initiatives and engagement. Sherpa tracks leads 13 working groups in total, whereas finance track leads 8 working groups. In addition, the G20 structure consists of 4 initiatives and 11 engagement groups. African Union's admission is a permanent member of G20. The African Union, which has 55 members countries, officially joined the G20 on Saturday, that is September 9, after Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi proposed it and other leaders approved it. Now it is G20 plus 1 until the new name to be announced. Next prospects is mega rail port connectivity between India, US, Saudi and UAE. On the sideline of the G20 summit in New Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared on Saturday the creation of a rail and maritime route connecting the Middle East, South Asia and Europe. This corridor would be the new initiatives taken to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative. And the next is joint communique of G20. After numerous delays and hiccups, the G20 nations members have finally come to an agreement and the Delhi declaration has been adopted. If not, it would be a humiliating first if the G20's participants could not agree on a joint statement to be made at its conclusion. The joint communique with the 83 points, which did not include a footnote, sent India, the host nation, into a euphoria. The leader of the Sherpa track, Amitabh Kant, described it as a significant presence for India at the G20. He claimed that green world was receiving a lot of attention for the future. The proclamation is expected to hasten the achievement of sustainable development goals, particularly those related to nutrition, health and education. He continued by saying that it placed a strong emphasis on the advancement of women, artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The unified declaration was thought to have strengthened the voice of the global south. Food, fuel and fertilizer were areas of particular concern. In paragraph 39 and 41, it also discusses climate finance. Similar to this, a specific emphasis has been placed on green hydrogen, gender inclusive climate action and environmental lifestyle issues. These issues have all been included in the joint declaration. The 37-page declaration had 25 list of supporting papers and 83 points or paragraphs. Now, let us discuss the challenges of the G20 summit. Number 1, issues of the 17th G20 summit. The 17th G20 summit took place on November 16, 2022 in Bali, Indonesia. The main topic of discussion at the summit was Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and some nations demanded that Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, be banned from the G20. A statement that most participants in the Bali summit deplored Russia's invasion finally appeared in the summit's joint declaration, along with an acknowledgement that there were diverse perspectives and analysis of the situation. Another significant event that should be recalled was the 3-hour meeting between US President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping on November 14, which was the day before the Bali summit. After Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, visited Taiwan in 2022, one of the reasons why the situation, or let's call the ties between the two nations, deteriorated. In this regard, it is believed that Bali's baggage was also brought to the Delhi summit. Next challenge is division within G20 member countries. The G20 comprises of the US and its allies, along with other members countries which are not US allies. Given the G20's divisions over a number of subjects, the Ukraine war being the most significant, it was not simple. Earlier this year, the G20 Foreign and Finance Ministers meeting came to a close without issuing a joint statement. According to officials, it took 200 hours of negotiation on the Ukraine war to get a compromise on paragraph 8 of the joint declaration. Another challenge to be considered is like Chinese president's absence in the summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping has decided not to attend the G20 summit in New Delhi, contrary to his usual attendance. Media reports reveal that the most recent meeting, where he was supposed to have encountered difficulties in the parties, is thought to be the cause of the unexpected action. Ever since he assumed office in 2012, President Xi has never missed a G20 summit. The announcement of his absence comes at a time when there is growing friction between China and several members of G20. There should be some pertinent reason why he wanted to skip the summit in Delhi. Number one reason could be China-US conflict, which has caused due to US-China trade war, Huawei case, and US-China semiconductor war. Next reason would be India-China border dispute and recently released map from China. Third reason could be China's continuous support to Russia, which US and its allies have opposed. And the next reason could be China is not in a central stage in G20. In conversation with me, one of the international journalists based in Delhi said, I quote, I think President Xi Jinping wanted to send a strong message to Indian leadership, and his absence from the G20 summit underlined fact about China's dominance and its disdain for the Modi's government, as witnessed from recent interactions between the two leaders at Johannesburg and Bali. For the detail of US-China conflict, I would like to request my readers and viewers to go through my previous presentation, especially episode 5. Another challenge, journalists were not allowed to ask questions during India-US meeting. The US President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi met bilaterally in Delhi ahead of the G20 summit, but the Congress said on Friday that Joe Biden's team claimed the government forbade questions from the media to be directed at them. According to BBC, US President Joe Biden stated that he discussed human rights problem in India as well as the significance of a free press with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi. Another challenge, Canada-India tensions. At this year's G20 conference, there looked to be tensions between Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. According to CBC News, Trudeau was unhappy with the joint statement's wording on climate change and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, whereas Modi praised him to stop Sikh separatists in Canada. During the G20 summit, Modi conducted bilateral meetings with a large number of world leaders, but not one with Trudeau. Further, Trudeau skipped the G20 gala dinner. The body language of the two G20 leaders was obviously noticeable at times. Observers spotted Modi reaching for Trudeau's hand during a wreath-laying ceremony, but Trudeau rejected, indicating that Trudeau was the lone leader to reject the lengthier handshake. In conclusion, India is a country having huge disparity between poverty and wealth. According to World Poverty Clock, a Vienna-based think tank, in July 2018, a minimum of 5.3% or 70.6 million Indians lived in extreme poverty. According to Oxfam India's recent research and survival of the richest, the India story, as quoted in the Times of India, while just 5% of Indians held over 62% of all wealth in the country in 2021, the lowest 50% of the population possessed only 3% of the wealth. It is a huge challenge for India to manage over 4 lakhs beggars, as per the census of 2011 Ministry of Social Justice, Government of India, and 1.8 million homeless people living on the streets. On contrary, Forbes 2023 World's Billionaires list now has a record 169 Indians, up from 166 the previous year. Growing income inequality makes it harder for the poor to move up the economic ladder and raises the likelihood that they will fall into poverty trap. Low earnings, lengthy work weeks, and a lack of basic amenities like first aid, clean water, and sanitation characterize the bottom 10% of the population. In this regard, India held the 2023 G20 summit in New Delhi effectively. Positive feature of the G20 include the adoption of softer wording regarding the Ukraine war, the official admission of the African Union, the announcement of the US, Saudi Arabia, India and UAE joint transit corridor, the gradual advancement of climate change, the joint communique of G20 and India's significant diplomatic involvement. The obstacles facing the G20 include the US President's worry about the issue of press freedom and human rights, personal adulation of Prime Minister Modi through brand display in the street, the Canadian Prime Minister's unhappiness and his absence from the G20 gala dinner. We need to wait and see how Brazil's journey to take the elite club of the global south and developed world develops, even though the 2-day G20 summit was a fantastic opportunity for India to promote its brand on the international stage. With this, I would like to conclude this episode. Thanks for watching me. I'll come up with the new issue in my next episode. Thank you once again.